Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to go on a super fast journey through the history of the music you listen to every single day. We're going to connect the dots from some of the very first recorded beats all the way to what's on your playlist right now.
I mean, really think about it. That beat, that melody in your head, where did it start? Well, its story is a pretty wild ride that began over a century ago. And trust me, it's a story packed with rebellion, creativity, and some serious genius.
Okay, so let's jump right in. To really get today's music, you have to go way back to the beginning. And for popular music, that means heading to the American South, where two absolute giant genres were born that would literally change everything.
I want you to think of blues and jazz as kind of the musical grandparents to almost everything we listen to today. The blues, coming out of the Mississippi Delta, was all about raw emotion and telling stories about real life. And at the same time, jazz, born down in New Orleans, was just this explosion of energy, mixing together brass bands and complex African rhythms. They basically created the musical DNA for the next 100 years.
And a huge piece of that jazz DNA was this awesome idea called improvisation. So what is it? It's basically making music up right on the spot. Instead of just reading notes off a page, musicians were having a conversation using their instruments, listening and responding to each other in real time. This idea of creative freedom, it was a total game changer.
Now, in the 30s and 40s, that musical DNA started to evolve. Jazz grew up into swing, which was played by these huge orchestras called big bands. This was upbeat, high-energy music that was designed for one thing: getting people to dance, especially during some really tough economic times. And thanks to the radio, for the first time ever, the entire country was listening and dancing to the very same songs. It was America's first real national soundtrack.
All right, let's hit the fast-forward button and jump to the 1950s. This is the moment when music stopped being just for adults. It became the official voice for a brand new cultural force, the teenager. A sonic revolution was brewing. So how'd this revolution kick off? Well, it started with a recipe. Musicians started taking the powerful beat and the soulful vocals of rhythm and blues, and they mixed it with the simple chords and storytelling traditions of country music. Two totally different sounds, one incredible new idea.
And that amazing combination gave us rock and roll. This was a sound that didn't just change the charts, it changed the world for young people everywhere.
So what made it so different? Well, for starters, the electric guitar wasn't in the background anymore. It was the hero of the song. The music was loud, it was fast, and for the first time it was aimed right at teenagers, creating a culture just for them. Plus, with television showing up in more homes, you could actually see your favorite artists perform. Suddenly, the look was just as important as the sound.
This new rock and roll energy was so powerful, it literally jumped across the Atlantic Ocean to the UK. British bands soaked up that American sound, put their own spin on it, and then sent it right back to us. This was the British invasion, and it proved music was now a global conversation. And their knack for writing incredibly catchy melodies, it still shapes the pop songs you hear on the radio today. Meanwhile, back in the States, something truly special was happening in Detroit. A record label called Motown was crafting a polished, irresistible new sound, soul. It took the powerful emotion of gospel music and blended it with pop hooks that you just couldn't get out of your head. Motown's music was for everyone, and it helped break down racial barriers on the radio, producing hit after hit that got the entire world dancing. But the revolution in the 60s wasn't all about loud guitars and dance beats. You also had the folk movement. It showed that sometimes the biggest impact could come from just one person, an acoustic guitar, and a powerful message. These songs became the anthems for major social change, proving that sometimes the quietest music can make the most noise. Okay, let's head into the 1970s. This is where popular music basically split into two completely opposite directions. It was a decade of extremes. You either had music made for the glittering dance floor, or you had music made for massive, sold-out arenas. And you could see that great divide right here. On one side, you had disco, with that steady, pulsing, four-on-the-floor dance beat. That's a kick drum on every single beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. It was full of synthesizers and strings. And then, on the total opposite side, you had heavy metal, with its screaming, distorted guitars, thundering drums, and leather jackets. Two completely different worlds, living in the same decade.
Okay, now we're moving into the era where technology just completely changed the game. It was about to totally rewire not just how music sounded, but how we made it, how we shared it, and how we listened to it.
And it all started on the streets of New York City. See, hip-hop wasn't just a new kind of music.
it was a whole culture. You had DJs at block parties who figured out how to loop the funkiest drum parts from old records to keep the party going. Then you had MCs who started rapping over those beats. Add in breakdancers and graffiti artists, and you had a powerful new movement born from pure creativity.
At the heart of this new hip-hop sound was a new piece of technology that allowed for sampling. This just means producers could use a machine to take a tiny piece of an older song, like a cool drum beat or a horn blast, and reuse it to build a totally new track. It was like musical recycling, and it completely changed how music was made forever.
The 1980s. This was the age of the pop superstar. With music television channels running 24/7, an artist's image and their music videos became absolutely critical. The sound itself was very futuristic, filled with synthesizers and drum machines. Solo artists became global icons, and we all started switching from buying vinyl records to those new, shiny compact discs. But not everyone was a fan of that super clean, polished 80s sound. So in the early 90s, a music scene out of Seattle, Washington had a very different idea. They were reacting against all that flashiness with a sound that was messy, emotional, and really, really raw. And that sound was called grunge. The signature trick of a lot of grunge music was its use of dynamics. Songs would often start with a quiet, maybe even mumbling verse, and then suddenly explode into a massive, super loud chorus, before dropping back down again. This quiet, loud, quiet structure felt incredibly powerful and honest, and it connected with a whole new generation. So yeah, the sound of music kept changing, but maybe the biggest revolution was still to come. The internet completely flipped the script on how we even get our music. We went from having to buy physical things in a store, like records and CDs, to living in a world where millions of songs are just instantly available at our fingertips.
And that's the world we're in right now. You don't need $1 million studio anymore. You can make a hit song on a laptop in your bedroom. Artists don't even need a record label to get heard. They can upload a track and find an audience all over the world in minutes using social media. It's really a democratization of music, where a viral hit can come from absolutely anywhere.
So we've gone from blues singers on a porch in Mississippi to AI that can create beats. The technology, the sound, the way we listen, it is always, always changing. Which leaves us with one last really interesting question to think about. What do you think comes next?